In this video, we're going to be looking at angle basics. So you're going to have to go through this video before you look at angles in parallel lines and angles in polygons. So here we have our first rule. And this is looking at angles in a straight line. And the rule here is that angles in a straight line always add up to 180. So here I've got an example. You've got 120 degrees and 60 degrees. And sum them up, you get 180. So here I've given a question where we need to work out what x is. And we know one of the angles is 108. Now remember, these two angles must add up to 180. So the calculation we're going to do here is we're going to do 180 minus 108 to see what's left in order to make them add up to 180. So let's go ahead and do that. So x is basically 180, take away the 108 to see what we have remaining in order to make it add up to 180, which gives us 72 degrees. And this is a calculation you will be commonly doing. Okay, so let's look at this scenario. And here you'll know the angles go round to make a little circle. So what you could say is angles in a circle always add up to 360. And that's the rule for this one. So here I've put an example for you, and you can see that 290 degrees plus 70 degrees indeed does make 360 degrees. Okay, so here I've got a question for you. We need to work out what x is. Now we know one of the angles is 100 degrees. And we also know they both need to add up to 360. So we can find out what's left in order to make it add up to 360 by doing 360 minus 100. And there you go. X is 260 degrees. So here we've got a few more types of angle rules we need to know. This one we can call opposite angles. And in opposite angles, the angles are always the same. It's like a scissor basically. If you open one side wider, the other side automatically will get wider. So here we have a triangle, and the angles in a triangle always add up to 180. And we're going to go into more detail about triangles a bit later on. Just remember that to work out a missing angle on a triangle, you need to know the other two angles. So I need to work out what x is. Now I know it's a triangle, so the angles must add up to 180. I do know the other two sides, so I'll add up their angles. So at the moment, the two angles I know add up to 110. Now, since all the angles add up to 180, what I'm going to do is 180 subtract 110 to see what's remaining to make sure the angles sum to 180. And the last one I have here is a quadrilateral. A quadrilateral is any four-sided shape. And the rule for quadrilaterals is the angles always add up to 360. And for these types, if you're looking at a missing angle, you need to know all the other three angles to work it out. Let's look at an example. So again, I need to work out what x is. The first step I'm going to do is add up all the angles I know. And that gives me 280. Now remember, the angles must add up to 360 in all quadrilaterals. So I want to know how much more I need to make it add to 360. And the way I'm going to do that is I'll do 360 minus that 280. So to make sure they all add up to 360, that x must be 80. So here we've got some special triangles. The first one has two sides the same, and we call that an isosceles triangle. And the rule of the isosceles triangles is the base angles are always equal. When all three sides are the same, all three angles will also be the same. And this is called an equilateral triangle. Now with equilateral triangles, it's quite simple. All the angles must add up to 180. They're all the same, so you can simply do 180 divided by 3. Okay, so with isosceles, there's two types of questions you can have. Now, let's look at the first one. So we know it's an isosceles because two sides are exactly the same, and we have to work out the angle x. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is notice that the base angles are the same. So we have 50 degrees, and the angle adjacent to that must also be 50 degrees. Because remember, the base angles of an isosceles are always equal. So now I can sum them up, which gives me 100. Now remember, the angles in the triangle have to add up to 180. So I can just do 180 minus what the other two sum to. So let's look at the next one. So here we only know one angle, and we need to work out x. So usually in a triangle you need to know two angles to work out the remaining missing angle. However, as it's an isosceles, we can still do it. So the first thing we're going to do is see what's remaining from 180. Because remember, the angles in a triangle are at 180, so I can do 180 minus 100. And that gives us 80. So we know there's two more missing angles, but we do know they must add up to 180 to ensure the whole triangle's angles add up to 180. And as they are the same, the two missing angles, we can just half that remaining 80 to get one of them. And there we have it. X equals 40. I hope you found that video useful. Support us by liking, subscribing, and share this with your friends. And if you still got some more questions on anything, drop a post on our forum at examqa.com where you'll find your questions answered.